The state of Illinois has, of course, a lot of regulations on a variety of things, but when it comes to issues like abortion or being able to change your gender, there's a lot of lax regulations, including being able to change your birth certificate, driver's license, and these are typically things you would think an adult, if it's their choice, they should be able to do that. But what about for minors, for children? Of course, Illinois already has on the books a law that removed parental notification of abortions, but what else is out there on the horizon? Former State Representative Jeanne Ives joining me right now to talk about a controversial issue for sure, and a petition drive to make sure that parents have ultimate choice when it comes to how their children live their lives. State Representative Jeanne Ives, thank you so much for taking time with us this morning. It's good to talk with you. I guess just go ahead and lay it out there for us. What are we looking at with the petition drive you're spearheading here?
Sure. So by citizen initiative, the only thing we really can do in this public policy area is ask an advisory question of the electorate. It's basically a polling question. And a friend of mine decided that he wanted to do something about the lack of parental rights, the way that they've been eroded in the state. So he wanted to put an advisory question on the ballot, and I decided to help him. And so we formed Parents Matter Coalition. And our advisory question is very straightforward, super easy to understand. It just says, should you have to get the written consent of a parent or guardian before you can do any non-emergency medical care, procedure, treatment, pharmaceutical, gender modification, gender counseling, or gender therapy to a minor in the state of Illinois? It's just that simple. And obviously it's common sense.
So, Representative, if you could, I guess, lay out there the current state of this issue in Illinois. Is this something that is already happening with minors getting either, gender reassignment surgery or receiving things like hormone therapies or other types of instances when it comes to the gender identity issues?
So when it comes to gender identity issues, there is still a prohibition that you can seek this type of gender modification or hormonal therapies without parental consent. But what is happening is that it is official state policy of the Illinois State Board of Education that you can socially transition children behind the parents' backs in our schools. That's their official guidance. It came out when J.B. Pritzker first took office, and a number of schools in our state have adopted those as their official policies, and we know it's been happening. In fact, we know it's been happening since at least 2015, even before the controversy became more controversial.
So what are we looking at as far as timeline here and the trajectory of your petition? Are you looking to get this on for the November ballot here in Illinois?
Yes, we are. We want it on the 2024 ballot. That means we need petition signatures, and our goal is 500,000 petition signatures. We need less than that, but we're aiming for 500,000 petition signatures, and we'd like to collect those by the end of March so that we can package it all together and then submit it to the State Board of Elections the first week of May in time for the 2024 ballot. That's our time frame. So we really need people to get involved. Just go ahead. You can download the petition and the instructions at our website, parentsmattercoalition.org, parentsmattercoalition.org. And you can just, by your own initiative, help us in this process.
Now, I know having covered the state of Illinois for years, when it comes to ballot initiatives, it's very difficult, as you know, to get initiatives on the ballot. I know the Fair Maps amendments, there were like 600,000 signatures filed or something to that effect, if not more. But that was ultimately knocked off the ballot. And you also have the hurdles of, possibly only 3 questions to be asked to the electorate on a election like the November election. So I guess just talk about how to navigate some of these hurdles and the potential of people trying to block these questions from getting on the ballot.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is simply an advisory question. It's a polling question. It doesn't even actually change law. The only way that you can do that by having a ballot referendum is if the legislators themselves, which we have a super majority of Democrats and radical leftists, have taken over the Democrat Party in the state of Illinois. There's really no common sense leadership in the state anymore, but they will put on the most radical ballot referendums. And if they do it via the legislature, then it can immediately become law. So the only thing we can even do is threaten them with a polling question. And oh my goodness, they will feel threatened if we get all these signatures. But in the process of doing this, we've already raised so much more awareness about how parent rights have been eroded by the state legislators. I mean, no longer do you even have to get notification from parents that parents have been notified before a minor can have an abortion. You can get hormonal birth control without parental consent. You can have your kids socially transitioned behind your back. And that's been happening. I mean, Jay Keck wrote an incredible article in 2019 in USA Today about how this happened to his daughter that he self-described is on the autism spectrum. And it happened to him right in the Hinsdale school district in a high school. And even though they had told Hinsdale, like, no, you'll call her by her proper name. You'll call her by her right pronouns. They did everything behind the parents' back to not do that. And he exposed it all. And so we just think this is nefarious. It's wrong. And there's no doubt that Illinois is an early adopter following California in terms of giving minors rights over their parents. And California is already headed the way of allowing minors to do gender transitioning hormonal treatments without parental consent. And we want to stave that off. So in the process of doing this, we hope to be successful, and we're working really hard to be successful. But I mean, there's no doubt that we're raising a lot of awareness about what the legislature has done to parental rights in this whole process of trying to get this question on the ballot.
Representative, adults are adults and they can make their own adult decisions. Children are, of course, have guardians as their parents or as guardians, looking over them. What do you think's behind this move? I mean, I get that, some who support this idea of allowing for adults to do what they want to do and maybe, fostering this sense of identity with a younger generation so they don't feel bullied or they feel more accepted. Is that really your understanding of the level of why this type of ideology is progressing more and more?
Well, I mean, I don't know why the leftists think that they should be the parent in every situation, but they do. They just think they have better ideas than the people themselves. And so it's not just in this regard, it's in every regard. They want to tell you what kind of car you have to drive, where your electricity can come from, how your business has to operate down to the minutia. And so and they just think that they know how to better parent than parents. I mean, it's the same thing with this new controversy that you all covered in Center Square about these health wellness checks on mental health, and how they literally, in the language of the bill, insinuate that if you're on Medicaid, then you definitely need to get a wellness check for your minor child on their mental health. I mean, that's insidious. That is so disrespectful of parents. And yet this is what the leftists are doing. They think they know better how to run society than the people themselves. And that's where this is coming from. They just want total control.
And you got to consider too the long-term effects of not just a young kid who may have some attention problems in school. A story that I have a friend who was graduated high school with, and he was just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Went off and tried to get into West Point Academy, but because he was given some ADHD type of medications earlier on in his childhood, that prevented him from getting into West Point. So you got to consider that the long-term consequences there, but that's just for mental health checks. I mean, what do you think the long-term consequences of giving adult decisions to children who are under the age of 18?
Well, we know what the long-term consequences are because the horrific stories are coming out about how minors were transitioned earlier, and now they look at themselves and they feel like they're a freak show, and they're having all sorts of medical issues. And I think that it's the devil's work. Truthfully, it really is the devil's work. And J.B. Pritzker and his family is 100% involved in this. This is something that Lurie Children's Hospital is all in about. They've received massive donations from the Pritzker family to hold that up. Hillsdale's and Primus did a really good expose on this 2 months ago. And people need to wake up. Pritzkers are heavily involved in this. It's big money, and yet it's harmful to change, to even think that you can change your sex, and to lead kids down this road of not accepting who they are and working through those challenges is just, I mean, honestly, I think that generations going forward will look back at us and wonder, why did we not stand up sooner?
And you've also got just the issue of, sports, which a lot of people are interested in, and how that's impacting kids, with, people born as a man going and playing women's sports. So interesting to see all of this in the purview of how the legislature may respond. But of course, you've got this petition drive. Tell people again where they can get information on that.
You can go to parentsmattercoalition.org. We have a number of articles posted. We have facts listed about it. You can get the petition, download it with the instructions. One more point about this, Greg, is that there are a number of states that are outright banning any discussion of gender modification for minor children. And they are outright, taken away the idea that you can have abortion at all for minors, or it's got to be very limited. And yet all we're asking is that you have to get the consent of the parent. This is not a radical idea. And we're finding a lot of support among different constituencies on the political spectrum. So it's been really fun to take on this initiative, and we look forward to success.
And then finally, as a former state lawmaker, I always appreciate getting the perspective of, now that you're outside looking in after having been inside the state legislature as a Republican in the now super minority. What do you think taxpayers need to look at, this issue aside about, the parental rights issue? What, as, taxpayers, should they really be looking out for when it comes to, budget season coming up, the prospects of gun legislation, the prospects of, even here in a bit, we're going to just touch on a measure that could give tax incentives to, local journalist outfits, or even possible taxpayer-funded grants to media outlets. What are some of the things that you think taxpayers really need to keep their eyes on heading into the budget season?
Well, first of all, it's going to be a dicey budget season this year. Already, Pritzker's administration themselves has predicted that they may have a deficit of $700 to $800 million. Obviously, the COVID largesse is falling away, and they've got a lot more expenses, including with the illegal immigrant population that they're funding. So they've got a lot of problems. I would say taxpayers, hold on to your wallets, because it's very more likely than not that they could try to push down the pensions to the local level. That will decimate property taxes. That is always in the offing when the budget comes tight. So I think that's one of the concerns. My biggest concern is what we're funding, quite frankly. And so there's been zero transparency on exactly who's getting all the contracts to provide for illegal alien care. They gave $125 million to Goshen, that Chinese communist plant in Manteno, without them even having building permits yet. They just gave it to them up front. We should not be funding the communist Chinese, our number one adversary. We should not be funding illegal aliens at all. And so you should be very concerned about how they're spending your money, because it'll take away resources that you think should be go to core government services like security, infrastructure, and schools. So I think that's my biggest concern, is there's zero transparency on this. I'm also very, very concerned about the big government initiatives that we already have, from the wellness checks for mental health in grades 7 through 12, which is ridiculous on its face, to what you just talked about, funding the media. Are you kidding me? This party is the biggest disinformation folks in the history of the United States. I mean, they just finally admitted that Hunter Biden's laptop was actually his laptop. I mean, give me a break. So I think there's a lot of scary initiatives. Business is also really hurting. The BIPA bill, with a biometric processing bill that has created millions of dollars of fines for companies, has to be redone. So there's a lot of problems with this big government solution to everything.
Former State Representative Jeanne Ives, greatly appreciate you taking the time with us this morning, and let's connect again in the near future, all right?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It is Bishop on Air. Greatly appreciate Representative Ives being here, and we'll definitely connect with her in the near future and keep you guys updated on this petition drive with Parents Matter Coalition. Again, parentsmattercoalition.org. You can get more information about that petition, and we'll keep track of how that's doing. Appreciate her time. All right. Stay tuned. We got plenty more with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and follow along.